or do you prefer your first name?
You can go by Chris. That's,
Thank you, Chris. It's so
yeah.
good to have you on here. I feel like our worlds have kind of collided over the past few years, and we've never had a chance to talk face to face. And I think we couldn't have done what we've done without you and what you were able to create for this whole basically this whole movement. I mean, it was such a the straw that broke the camel's back was basically your video, and you if you ask me. So I know there's a bunch of people jumping in right now, so I'm excited to give them a chance to pop on. Just in case anybody's just getting on, I'm Sheila Morovati. Hi, everybody. I'm the founder of Habits of Waste, and I am very excited to welcome Chris. Tell me how you pronounce your last name. I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Figgener. It's just really what it is.
Okay, Chris
Fig-
Figgener.
yeah, there we go.
Dr. Chris Figgener, who is the amazing marine biologist who famously removed a straw out of a sea turtle's nostril. And we're going to talk all about that. But since it's World Oceans Day, we really have to acknowledge the fact that the single-use plastic issue is such a major pollutant for our oceans. And again, our worlds collided without knowing one another, and it's just really exciting to have this conversation. So welcome. We're so happy you're here. And I can't wait to dig in. I have so much to ask you. And I know we have just 30 minutes, so I want to be sure to be mindful of the time. So with that, I guess the biggest question is, very simply put, like, what brought you into marine biology? I know you're from Germany. How did it all begin? What brought you from, point A to the boat the day that you took that video? I think is kind of the big question. It's a lot, but go for it.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. So first of all, thanks for having me. I think this
Sure.
is great, especially on the day where we're celebrating the thing that I love the most, our oceans.
Yes.
And yeah, I think, I was actually lucky. I grew up in a landlocked town in Germany, so not even close to the coast, but my parents were really, well, they're ocean lovers. There's mountain people and ocean people. My parents are definitely ocean people. And my first ever vacation as a kid, I was about 2 years old, I think, was in Greece. And I was, playing in the water. My parents wanted me to play in the water, and I was really scared of because I saw something swimming in the water and it freaked me out. And my dad, being, a German engineer, so he didn't let that slip and just said, and just go and wait for us. No, instead he went up to the tourist stands and bought me, a pair of those small diving goggles and said, there's nothing to be scared of. Just have a look. And that was literally the moment I fell in love with the ocean, I think. And it was definitely fostered by my parents as well. So I learned swimming very early on. I learned snorkeling very early on. We did a lot of water sports. And I had the amazing opportunity when I was about 13, I think at that point, to intern at a huge aquarium in Germany that had marine mammals as well. But for me, it was like the closest I could get to the ocean and interact with a lot of scientists actually as well, because the University of Münster was attached and they did a lot of behavioral stuff there and physiological stuff. So I think that was the moment where I really realized, you can actually have a career with loving the ocean and wanting to explore the ocean.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to be a marine biologist. And yeah, I went ahead, did that, and did my undergrad, my master's with German universities. But during my master's already, I started to work in Costa Rica with sea turtles. That was pretty much the first moment I ever saw a sea turtle nesting, actually, in 2007 as a research assistant. And the funny thing is, I started becoming a marine biologist because I loved humpback whales. So where other kids collected posters of boy groups, I think I don't even know, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys was probably my age group. I was collecting humpback whale posters and
That's
article
great.
snippets. And yeah, so when I went to Costa Rica though, and I saw my first ever leatherback turtle nesting, it was really the moment that I decided, okay, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen, and I want to do everything that's possible to make sure that future generations are able to have the same experience I have right now. And yeah, ever since then, I have been working actively in sea turtle conservation and research in Costa Rica. And in 2014, I went back to school to get my PhD in marine biology. And I did that with the US American University, Texas A&M. And that fateful day on the boat was actually my very first field season for my PhD, where I was studying olive ridleys in front of the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. And we were interested in their mating behavior and how males and females choose each other. So we were sampling those mating couples. And yeah, that 10th of August in 2015, we were pretty much done with our day almost. We had like the last couple on board, and I was actually done with my sampling. And I had a colleague on board that was visiting that day that is interested in ectopairs, or like ectobines, so the little critters that live on
Yeah.
turtles. And so he started collecting everything that he found on that particular male, and he noticed that he also had something funny encrusted in its nose. And we first thought it's a barnacle and maybe even a worm or something that has built its tube in the nostril. And since I didn't have anything to do, I just grabbed my camera and said, you know what, while you pulling that thing out, whatever it is, I'm going to film you. And within 8 minutes, it turned out to be a plastic straw. So yeah, I mean, that was just really incredible and shocking because, I mean, I don't want to lie. Plastic has been a sad byline of my work ever since I started working with sea turtles in Costa Rica. So, you know, the amounts of time that we're spending cleaning up beaches to make them even habitable for our nesting females or the babies that are hatching afterwards. And the amount of plastic that we're pulling off the beaches is ridiculous. And
Yeah,
of course,
it
all
is.
the impacts that we're witnessing, right? So, I mean, it wasn't the first time we've seen a turtle impacted by plastic, right? So we have seen turtles that were stuck in car tires. We have seen baby turtles getting stuck in plastic gallons. We have seen any kind of entanglement that you can envision in fishing lines and rice bags, which are kind of big
Yeah.
plastic bags. And one particular day, for example, or night actually, I had a leatherback turtle nesting, and you know, after a while, after doing it for a few years, you know how long it should take, like for the different steps. And I remember that she was pretty much trying to lay her eggs, and it has been, you know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and she still didn't even drop a single egg. And so we usually use red lights on the beach. I turned on my white light just to make sure to check what's going on. And I saw just a little piece of plastic back kind of peeking out of her cloaca. So that's the part where, you know, all of her eggs are falling out and also her feces and the urine. So I started pulling on it, and lo and
Oh
behold, I
no.
was pulling out an entire trash bag out of her cloaca.
Oh, that's
And after
so
that,
heartbreaking.
and after that, she was able to drop her eggs. And I mean, she was the lucky one, right? Because she was able, she probably ingested it, but it passed the entire digestive tract and came out in the end. But a lot of those turtles are not that lucky. So most of the times when we're opening up a dead turtle that, you know, was washed up on shore, they're full of plastic when we open the
My
stomach.
God.
So it is just, you know, I think you're getting really fed up with just consistently witnessing that and knowing that this is absolutely human caused and it's all due to our lifestyle, our conveniences. And it's such a, you know, nobody was talking about it neither. And it was really interesting because literally the night before we had this encounter on the boat, my colleague and I, we were sitting in the restaurant, and we were talking about, you know, we hadn't seen each other for a while, and we got our drinks, and both of us had forgotten to ask for no straw. And you know, so while we were like busy with each other talking, those drinks arrived with a plastic straw, and it just sparked this conversation about how useless plastic straws actually are, that you really don't need them, and why, who even invented them, and you know, kind of down that spiel. And then the next day we have this turtle, and it was just so shocking. I mean, we had a 2 hour boat ride back to the harbor, and literally nobody spoke. It was just,
Oh.
we couldn't believe it. It was just like another thing, and it was just too crazy. I mean, she had a
And
freaking
and I
plastic in
noticed
her hand.
you had said you didn't have a lot of internet out in Costa Rica at the time, and so you decided to get it on like what when you got back to your office or something in LA I mean on stateside, or did you do it right there in Costa Rica the same day? And what happened after you posted it?
Yeah, so no, I did it the same day, and it was really funny because our, kind of headquarters for that season was right next to this pizza place because the headquarters didn't have internet, but the pizza place had internet, kind of a fancy Italian restaurant. So we had to go and eat there for like once, which was super
Oh, funny.
expensive to get the freaking password. And then we leached onto the internet. And of course, as long as the restaurant was open, it was always overloaded and you couldn't really
Oh, wow.
get anything done. So, and also the batteries of that camera had died on the boat. And
Oh,
we
wow.
didn't even know until what point the video had recorded. So we came home and the first thing I said, I took out the SD card, put it in my computer, and the moment we're pulling out the straw, that was literally the moment where the camera had cut off and it was gone.
Oh, wow. See, it's like meant to be, right? The universe
Oh,
was
it
helping
was.
get this whole movement forward. And then what happens next? You just put it on a YouTube channel that has any followers? Like how does something go viral is what I want to know. Like how did you
You know,
just get from like 0 to 5,000 in like 2 seconds, you know?
If I would know the like formula, I would tell you. I really don't because my YouTube channel at that point had maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 subscribers, which were probably
Wow.
my friends and
So
family.
small.
And it wasn't really that I was actively doing anything on YouTube. I don't even remember why I even opened a YouTube channel. It was there, so I used it to upload the video. It took the entire night. And I didn't even have time, to really do anything with it. So I remember the next morning, I just kind of checked, okay, it uploaded. And then I think I posted a link on Facebook, just saying, hey, look, guys, what we found. That's the reason we're always ranting about plastic. So here you can see for yourself what it does. And then I left on an 8-hour boat day. And then when I came back, it had already started blowing up, on my friend Nathan's account. It was just like, he's like, oh my God, Chris, did you see that? Like, it's going viral. And it only had, I'm saying only now, but it had like 10,000, 50,000 clicks or something. And I remember that, maybe not even that many, maybe less than that. And I remember I told my professors, like, oh, look at that. My video is going all viral, with kind of a twinkling smiley. But after we came back from there, it was just crazy. It was, I think within 2 days, we were already at 500,000 views, and our
Wow.
email boxes exploded with media requests, making comments on the video. Yeah, and then I think
That's
2 weeks was
amazing.
crazy. And then it kind of died down. So we thought, okay, this is it. That was our 2 weeks of fame. And now people move on to the next big topic. But for some reason, it was like in these waves that, because then the next wave was actually the nonprofits that were already working on the issue of, plastic pollution that started contacting me. For example, the last plastic straw with Jackie Nunez was
Jackie,
actually
yeah.
one of the first one, that was asking me, hey, can I use your video? Like your video is showing exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, of course, please, that's exactly why we put it out there because people need to see what we're seeing as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
And yeah, I mean, the problem is I can't really trace all of it, but the thing is, it just caused so many ripples. And then, the UN started picking it up. Then actually the next step, I think, was probably when David Attenborough was picking it up for the new Blue Planet series where he talked about plastic pollution. So yeah, it became these ripple effects that all of a sudden was affecting the whole world. And now, I mean, 5 years later, plastic is definitely a topic still and has been more than ever. I feel 5 years ago, I think nobody was really speaking about it.
It's true. And your video now has what, 30 million followers or something like that? I mean, 30 million
Yeah,
views, something insane like that. So it's definitely made waves. So congratulations, because
well,
the way our worlds collided was that there was a film called Straws, and this documentary was brought to my attention by one of the producers. And she was like, listen, I think we should screen the film, and I think it would be really important to do it, together in a interesting, cool environment. And I said, I'm happy to do that. I want to show this film. It's a great documentary to show everybody that single-use plastics really aren't necessary as much as we think. Now, I will just disclaimer, I will say that there are communities out there who do really depend on single-use plastic straws. So we want to just make sure that we respect all the people out there who do actually need them. But for the most part, we don't need them and we don't really think about them. And it became this sort of like bizarre behavior that we just suddenly go to restaurants and all sorts of different single-use plastics are coming at us without us even asking for it. So basically, when she asked if I'd screen the film with her, I said I would do it only if we did it in a way to make change. So we went to the city of Malibu and we asked if we could screen the film Straws. And sure enough, your video is in the film. We were able to bring the entire community together to watch this movie. And we brought on, Jackie was a part of our panel. There was another marine biologist that was part of the film that came. The director was in it. The producer was a part of the panel. So afterwards, we had everybody's questions answered. And with that information that we provided everybody, and by the way, the sea turtle portion, we warned everyone about it, and people were cringing, and just it was terrible, hard to see. We took that information that we had and got everybody calmed down about, why are we? Because people are like, why are you getting rid of our straws? Why do you want to get rid of our straws? But with a film like that, you really do show the impact it's making on the planet and on our oceans and sea life. So we went in and asked for the plastic straw ban and the plastic cutlery ban in the city of Malibu. And it was smooth sailing because all the information was out there. The city understood that they have to be a leader. And it was the first one that actually took effect, which was in June 2018. And that is when I remember seeing you in the film. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is the proof. This is the proof that we need, because you can, say all you want that plastic straws are bad. And so many people get on our case, like, it's just a straw. Who cares? What are you doing? But it opened the conversation for so much more. And I'm just so proud to, have had this kind of like distant connection with you for driving change. And I knew personally that if the city of Malibu, which is such an iconic beach community, my family that's in Italy always talks about Malibu. Malibu, it's so cool that you live right by Malibu. And I just think to myself, like, it's our local town here. We don't really think twice about it, but the world recognizes Malibu. So when I spoke to the city of Malibu, I did say, what you guys do will impact the world. And the first day that the plastic straw ban went through, I remember the next day it was like, oh, okay, the city of Malibu put out their newspaper in the local paper. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess that's all it is. A week later, they actually reread the entire law and like it goes into full effect. And oh my goodness, just like you, my phone just could not, emails, phones, everything would not stop ringing. And to be honest with you, it was that 500 million straws per day that are being used and discarded per day on this planet just blew my mind. So I'm so proud and happy that we had something to do with it. And again, your video really was a huge part of that. So thanks to all your hard work for making that possible. We actually started Habits of Waste because of that straw ban, because before it was all crayon collection, my other organization, and now it's evolved because it's not just crayons that we're throwing away without thinking, but it's all sorts of different things, and of course other behaviors too. So that being said, I also want to let everybody listening know, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to chime in, and I will definitely make sure that we get them answered by Chris. But I guess what I wanted to ask you is, right now, the whole thing with COVID and what happened with kind of like the calming down of all the beachgoers and people staying home, there was a huge push on the sea turtles and their livelihood. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened that they kind of did so much better over the past few months and why?
They're actually not doing any better. I don't know. That was, I think, one of those happy news that are fake,
Yeah, was it not
unfortunately.
true? Tell us. Yeah,
No,
what
not at
happened?
all. So first of all, I think there was one particular beach in somewhere Southeast Asia that was kind of, shown as like the example. But you have to think about that sea turtles' nests are laid about almost 3 months prior to when they hatch, right? So that was long before the COVID crisis was happening. So it had nothing to do with them actually hatching. There might be some areas in the world where, beach lighting is a problem, where turtles might be doing better. But what we're seeing actually on our beaches is that we have a huge increase in issues with poaching, because nobody's on the beach and not allowed to be on the beach that is legally on the beach to actually protect the turtles. We also see massive increases in plastic pollution because of disposable gloves and the little
Yes.
surgical masks. So honestly, I don't think that COVID, I mean, there might be some positive effects, what emissions concerns and other thing, but I think we should not being led to believe, that now everybody is thriving just because we're staying home. And that's just not the case because, developed, most of our children, first of all, nest in countries that are, developing countries. So there is a totally different situation out there to start with. And especially poachers that are already operating under, in the shadows, they don't care about sanitary restrictions. They're on the beach anyways. And a lot of the sea turtle work that's going on is all financed by volunteers, actually. I think I'm one of the few ones in the lucky position that my financing comes from elsewhere. So I can still continue doing my job right now, even though, some of that is, of course, a little bit limited because I don't have the manpower. But a lot of the other projects actually are totally unoperational right now because they do not have the volunteers that can come into the country.
Wow, that's so interesting. Someone just posted that I think everyone is so desperate for good news, and it's so important for us to keep up the pressure on companies that produce plastic to clean up their products. I mean, it couldn't be more
Yeah.
true than that right there. And we were excited. It's just so true. We were excited. We saw all these beautiful videos of all the sea turtles nesting and going into the water, the babies, and it was so beautiful, like empty, serene beaches. So it did portray this wonderful, kind of utopia for sea turtles. But I'm glad I brought that up because there's just, further reality that it's actually not the case. So here we go. So tell us a little bit more about what you'd like to see happen as far as like where when you're out there. I know that, single-use plastic straws and cutlery is the tip of the iceberg. It's really a conversation opener more than anything. But what are you seeing mostly when you're out there? Is there something that you think we need to really put our focus on?
Well, I mean, I'm a scientist, right? So a lot of my ideas are data driven. Can't help it. And I mean, what we see just of how much plastic is produced in what sector, and also what I'm seeing on the beach, we have a lot of issue with food packaging, right? So food packaging is one of the main polluters. It's, I think, also one of the top 10s that we find in beach cleanups. The ranking kind of varies a little bit if it's in the top five. I think usually it's in the top five at the very least. Um, and there's a lot of big companies involved, right? So, I mean, I don't know how familiar everybody is with that, but most of our foods and our cosmetics are literally produced by a handful of companies worldwide.
Yeah.
And we have over Procter and Gambler, all of those guys that are producing most of that trash and are somehow not, we're not held responsible to also what happens at the end of the life of their product. So that means they need to be really, there need to be laws in place that make sure that their packaging is absolutely biodegradable or else, disposed of, which is not recycling, because they always default back onto recycling, but we all know recycling at this point is not working. So
Right.
every time I hear another Coca-Cola spokesperson telling me about, but all of our products are recyclable, then I want to just punch them because, I see them on my beaches and it's just not, I know that the demand for recycled plastic is not as high. I know that a lot of the municipalities worldwide, I mean, we're not talking just US or Europe, we're talking about developing countries. They do not know what to do with all the plastic trash. And what infuriates me as well as living in a developing country is that, while maybe Europe has good laws in place and maybe the US as well, then they go onto those developing markets and then just dump all their, all their stuff right there, right? So that means there is no real consciousness and no real willingness to really make a change. And I think that needs to change. think they need to have people in their companies that really rethink all of it and they need to be on board. So I don't want to vilify. I really think a dialogue is necessary because we can't consistently just work against each other because
For
we will
sure.
not accomplish anything. And we can't just tell, I don't know how many billions of people that drink Coca-Cola products to just not drink it anymore. I think that's not realistic. So that means the company needs to change something. And I think we all need to make sure as consumers that this is happening. So that means if they're having, for example, still glass bottles out there, buy those instead of plastic. Try to convince them in other ways that you don't want their plastic trash. You want something that is, completely biodegradable or compostable or somehow else, disposable, that is not hurting the environment and in the end my turtles.
Yes, 100%. We're with you, and we believe that that is actually the only way is refusal, essentially. And the more we buy the plastic, the more plastic is produced. But sometimes, like you said, there aren't the options out there. So when we see the glass bottle of Coca-Cola, it's so exciting because it's so few and far between that we see them. But then again, you have a chance to get the cans, and the cans do recycle way better. So I think that there's just a bit more focus that needs to happen on how much pressure we're putting on the companies, and also legislation. It's just a very complicated mess of, intertwined interests that is causing so much of a problem. The organization that our namesake is Havits of Waste. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you have control, you have some sense of, decision making throughout your day that can protect or harm the planet. And our mission and our focus is, we are not only talking about single-use plastics, we're talking about all different ways of your daily behavior, your daily life, from riding your bike, getting into your car, versus, what you're eating, how are you sourcing your food, a million and one ways that your daily impact can be positive or negative. And so when we talk about single-use plastics, it's like so right up at the top of the list because you can refuse. And it's just a matter of like thinking ahead, maybe, or planning things. And also there are issues sometimes in the systemic ways in which we cannot escape it. So so campaigns like our Cut Out Cutlery campaign, where we asked the default settings to change on, food delivery applications so that no one receives plastic cutlery. If you need it, you ask for it and you can get it. But if you don't need it, it's not just going to come bombarding you with it.
Mhm.
So I think solutions like that are also really helpful. And I think that people generally want to do better, and there's no shame, no blame. We want people to understand that they have power and that they internally want to do better. They're just not seeing any of it. So that's why videos like yours are so crucial, because it connects the dots back from our pizza place soda with a straw in it all the way into the sea, and showing where that thing ends up, because that concept of away is just too easy for us to grasp onto. I'm throwing it away, I'm recycling it. But no, it ends up harming so many living beings.
Well, the thing is also, well, I think I'm a little bit more pessimistic maybe as you are. So I think it will take a lot to really get the people, well, like get awareness, to all the people out there. And I think there's different obstacles. There's, first of all, I think like financial obstacles, not everybody, is in the position or has the privilege to actually rethink their life choices as we have. And the other thing is apathy a lot of times. I think that, people just don't want to do anything. And so I feel that, it needs to be as easy as possible, as convenient as possible, because I think convenience is really the other, big thing that especially the consumer, sector is trying to make us consume more. It needs to be easy, it needs to be fast. So the solutions need to be equally convenient, right? And cost effective as well. So one of the reasons that I actually agreed to spearhead the Footprint Foundation, which is the nonprofit branch of Footprint LLC, which is providing plastic-free food packaging solutions, is that I believe this is exactly the sector where I see most of the stuff happening.
Sure.
And I think, if you don't have to choose, you just go and continue buying your whatever microwavable dinner. And, there is no other option than buying it in paper all of a sudden, or something else that is not plastic. Then I think this will make a huge change, because people don't have to be conscious. I don't really care about if they're so conscious, if the result is the same in the end, that we are more
Right.
sustainable. And, so I like, for example, the idea to have a default because that would be the default. You don't get anything else, or you have to go through more inconveniences to ask for it.
For sure.
To kind of make it the burden not on us to actually make those decisions, but if you want to have a paper or a plastic straw, then well, okay, then you need to kind of work for it a little bit so that you
Yeah.
see that there is actually something more attached to it.
For sure. No, it's true. And I think it's the goal in the end is the same to reduce the amount of plastic
Yeah,
pollution in the planet. However, like you said, it's definitely one of those things where how do we go about getting everybody to be engaged and willing to know that they matter? And I think that's our mission really is to give people the understanding that you do matter and you play a role in this world and this is your home too. So I think that we're getting somewhere. I'm hopeful personally. I'm always hopeful because I think each day we're getting closer to, cleaning, but it feels like you kind of like keep cleaning, and then more just keeps on dumping on you. So I think if we could just figure out how to close the tap a little bit quicker,
yeah,
then we can get somewhere for sure. But at this point, like you said, we do need to put more pressure on the companies and find other options and solutions. And you've inspired me to keep going and fight more. And, the world around us feels like it's falling apart right now, but it's all so interconnected. And we really do need to protect
for
our
sure.
our planet and in order to protect our humanity. And so it's all just really important for me personally to just keep at it and not give up. But unless there's anything else, would you like to add anything else? I want to just be respectful for the time. I know how
No,
busy
I
you are,
mean,
especially today.
that's okay. No, I'm really grateful that I was able to share some of my thoughts. I'm more of an accidental storyteller, so I'm the one that is providing the status quo from our oceans, pretty much one of them at least. And yeah, please, I mean, we all need to do better. Nobody's perfect, and it really helps if everybody just does a little bit. That's
Yeah.
really what it boils down to. Nobody needs to be perfect.
That's right. Perfection is the what is it called? Of good enough. Perfection is the like evil of good enough. So if we could all just do a little bit, it's good enough for now, at least. So with that, I wish you a very happy World Oceans Day, and I hope to, see more of your work on viral videos so that you can show everybody what our actions are actually doing out there so that there's a connection between us and nature, and you are that connection. So thank you once again, Chris, for being a part of this and for all the hard work you do. And our sea turtles are thanking you as well.
Well, thank you for having me. And you can always check back on my YouTube channel, actually, Sea Turtle Biologist. When I have something that is, worth kind of putting out there, it usually is posted right there.
Sounds great. We will. We'll check it out for sure. Thanks, everybody. We'll have a recap on our stories of what we just talked about, and we will add that in there as well. So have a wonderful rest of your day and stay safe.
Thank you, Sheila.
Bye, Chris. Take care.